bottle part two. You're not going crazy. I started a new bottle. I ended up drawing something over here, and I figured it'd be nice to do the box next to the bottle for you. So we've gone over how to measure the size of one thing to another thing, and starting the bottle construction. So this is more about the bottle, constructing a bottle, than it is about sight measuring. One more sight measuring thing though that's very useful to help you see negative shapes, and we'll use it again when we do a box to locate the back corner of the box. And that's when you're sight measuring, you can use your pencil to create a vertical or horizontal line that can help you either see a negative shape or compare the location of one part of something to another part of something. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my pencil out horizontally. It looks crooked in the video, but it's straight to me. So what you do is you hold it out horizontally and you drop it down. Right. Oops, so that's my eye, I forget. Camera. Okay. So you hold it out horizontally, you drop it down until the pencil just touches the bottom of the bottle. And then you look at the curve of the bottle to help you see that space here as a negative shape. One thing I will mention about the particular webcam, you're about to get a guest appearance about my cat. Come on. Loose. Come on. One thing that I will mention about this camera, it's got a little bit of a fisheye, and I positioned this off to the side so that you can see the still life that I'm working from. If it looks a little distorted, that's why. It's because of the webcam. So anyway, what I'm doing in my vision is I'm holding it out horizontally, putting it on the bottom of the bottle, and looking at the curve of the ellipse underneath as if it's a negative shape. And you can use that to help you estimate how much of a curve the bottom of the bottle is. So there's another bottle on how to draw an ellipse. Basic idea is that an ellipse at your eye level is a perfectly straight line, and as it moves away from your eye level, either above your eye level or below your eye level, that ellipse opens up and becomes more and more like a circle, right? So when I'm standing, I can just see the top of the cap on the bottle, which means that my eye level is above the top of the bottle. So eye level is literally the height of your eyes relative to your subject matter. So my eyes are out here relative to the bottle. They're not much higher than the bottle because I'm so short. If I were taller, my eye level would be up here, and I would see a stronger curve at the bottom of the bottle and even at the top. But the top of the bottle is closer to my eye level, so it's going to be more narrow from front to back. The curve along the bottom is going to be wider and more open because it's a little bit further away from my eye level. So anyway, that's how you see the curve. And then to draw the bottom of that, even if it's not a transparent bottle, draw the long axis and the short axis. So you divide this in half so that you have a guideline. You can use your fingers or your pencil to help estimate that the front and the back are the same size. So those two lines need to cross right in the middle. The two halves of the short ellipse and the two halves of the long ellipse need to be the same size compared to each other. I don't know if you remember this notation from geometry class, but that means they're the same size. And then when you draw your curve around it, so when you come up to meet the sides of your bottle, if it was transparent, and it is kind of, I can see the back through the blue a little bit, that's how I would draw the back part of the bottle. But even if it's not, think about that curve and how it goes around the corner, and it will help you draw a more convincing curve as it leads up into the side of the cylinder, because otherwise you end up with something like this. You get the two sides and you do this, and then it might be too flat and abrupt. It doesn't quite look as three-dimensional when you do it that way. If you don't do the axis, the lowest point of your curve ends up not being in the middle of the bottle, and it should be. Or the curve over here is not directly horizontally across from the curve over here. So there's something special about a bottle. If you tip it, if you hold it upright, I'm not going to do it to my bottle. There you go. So if you look at any kind of cylindrical object, it's a circle, and it has a center. And if you imagine a line, a pole that goes right up through the center, in 2 dimensions, that becomes the center axis. And the shape on either side of that center axis are going to be mirror images of each other. So what you want to do on your paper, okay, how to draw a straight line well on your paper. From the shoulder, remember my knuckles are on the paper to help me stay with a fairly light line. Draw the center axis. Check it. Make sure that you're not wandering. So I wandered. My center axis is good at the bottom, but not so good at the top. You can even, do a couple of little marks for yourself as kind of guidelines. You don't need to pull out a ruler. You can. It's not like it's against the rules. But practicing these long straight lines it's good practice. You should be able to freehand things like this eventually. So this will be the size of my bottle. My bottle will fit into this space. This is the center axis. In my new drawing, I have not measured the shoulder of the bottle. So I'm going to measure that again so that I can put it on my paper. It's about here. So when I go to draw the shoulder of the bottle, so it's like straight. So I've got the curve at the bottom, and it goes straight, 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 straight. I think I measured it wrong. So this is what you want to watch out for. I think I measured from here up on my paper, but from here up when I was measuring it. So I'm going to double check. There are lots of little ways that this can go wrong. Yeah, it needs to be a little bit higher. So when you first start measuring, one of the things to keep an eye for is your own intuitive sense of proportion, right? So the shoulder on one side is going to be directly across from the shoulder on the other. Mirror images, remember? That's how you line them up. You're using your box to keep things straight, to keep the neck in the middle, and you're using your center axis to make things a mirror image of each other. Now, you could measure the width of the neck, but if you don't need to, you don't need to. So if you have fairly good intuitive proportions, you can just eyeball the rest of it. If you need to measure something, you could maybe measure the length of the neck compared to the width. You don't always have to start with the width. So remember, break in the contour. It's sort of vague when I'm looking at the bottle. It's like there-ish. As long as you know what spot you're looking at, you can measure it. Okay? So I'm going to measure to the spot that I have in my mind from the top of the bottle down. That's my unit. And then I'm going to compare that to the width of the bottle. And it is about this much. So if I go from the top of the bottle down, which I determined was here, the shoulder should begin to turn about there, which is where I have it. So that's good. So you don't, once you start measuring, everything needs to be the correct size relative to each other, but you don't need to keep measuring from the same thing. And then the rest of it, if you can just estimate how big the cap is, you can estimate how big the cap is. If your cylindrical object is not a bottle, so like if you're looking at something like the cup, then maybe you're making some measurement marks to figure out where the handles are. But the process of drawing a cylinder and a central axis, it's the same. So that's construction of a bottle.